zones have always been a source of fascination for gamers. One of the best known examples of them is the four deleted zones in Sonic 2: Hidden Palace, Wood, Dust Hill, Genocide City slash Cyber City, and Rock Zone. That's actually fucking 5 zones. Are all listed on the level select screen of a publicly available Sonic 2 beta. Hidden Palace and Wood Zone can be partially played, and there is a old preview picture of what is believed to be Dust Hill. Rock Zone, however, is a mystery. Selecting it in the Lost Worlds hack will simply load Hilltop Hilltop knockoff. The lack of information and excessively threatening name had made this zone one of the biggest mysteries in gaming. With a personalized copy of the game recently, I came across what was claimed to be a more completed beta of Sonic 2, which had all the missing zones intact and fully playable. I was skeptical that such a thing would exist, since most deleted levels are cut because they were never finished. But the download description claimed every zone had been completed and removed for an unexplained reason. I started playing the beta. Aside from Tails not being present in gameplay, the game initially seemed identical to the final version. After completing Emerald Hill and Chemical Plant Zone, however, I ended up in Dust Hill. Dust Hill was pretty similar to the lone screenshot of it, and a stranded desert themed level. A stranded desert themed level. The oddly slow banjo music in the background was a little unsettling, but everything else felt just like a normal Sonic 2 zone. The Robotnik boss was a standard vehicle with robotic arms, holding six shooter guns, although they fired the standard energy bullets. After Dust Hill, I went through Aquatic Ruins, Casino Night, and Hilltop Zone with no differences from the ones in the final game. After Hilltop, I entered Wood Zone, and like Dust Hill, this fit in perfectly, with the exception of some odd textures on carved wood platforms. They looked almost like faces. The music had a tribal feel to it. Robotnik was fought on a few floating platforms above a spiked pit. He used an axe attachment to his vehicle to eliminate platforms and attack you. In Mystic Cave Zone, I noticed the first difference from the final version, besides the added levels. I collected the 7th Chaos Emerald in it, and didn't get any message about Supersonic. Just a Sonic got them all message. I couldn't turn into Supersonic either. After completing Oil Ocean, I went to Hidden Palace Zone. It was pretty much like the version in the well-known beta. Nothing unusual until I got to the end of the second act. Tails was tied to the Master Emerald. Knuckles was hovering above him. Kinda strange since he didn't appear until Sonic 3. And doing a laughing animation, he turned into Supersonic and ran past the Master Emerald, grabbing Tails right before Knuckles fired a gigantic beam at the Emerald. Shattering it, I got a message saying Sonic saved Tails, and the screen faded. Genocide slash Cyber City Zone started. I could change it to Supersonic with 50 rings now, and Tails was following me. The rest of the game was just like the normal version. Rock Zone never showed up. Confused about Rock Zone's absence, I looked around online trying to find information about the version I had just played. I couldn't find anything, so I decided to try replaying the game without recollecting the Chaos Emeralds. Everything in the game was identical until I reached the end of Hidden Palace. Tails was still tied to the emerald. Knuckles was still above him. Sonic ran into the emerald to try and save Tails, but Knuckles fired an energy beam diagonally, knocking Sonic back. Knuckles fired his huge beam at the Master Emerald, hitting Tails this time. I heard a loud, high-pitched shriek, which I guessed was supposed to be a voice sample from Tails. When the beam went away, Tails and the Master Emerald were both gone without a trace. Knuckles had did a laughing animation and flew away. Sonic did a animation I had never seen before where he fell to the ground and just lay there. The words "you couldn't save him" get appeared on the screen and the level faded out. I started playing the beta. Aside from Tails not being present in gameplay, the game initially seemed identical to the final version. After completing Emerald Hill and Chemical Plant Zone, however, I ended up in Dust Hill. Dust Hill was pretty similar to the lone screenshot of it, and a stranded desert themed level. A stranded desert themed level. The oddly slow banjo music in the background was a little unsettling, but everything else felt just like a normal Sonic 2 zone. The Robotnik boss was a standard vehicle with robotic arms, holding six shooter guns, although they fired the standard energy bullets. After Dust Hill, I went through Aquatic Ruins, Casino Night, and Hilltop Zone with no differences from the ones in the final game. After Hilltop, I entered Wood Zone, and like Dust Hill, this fit in perfectly, with the exception of some odd textures on carved wood platforms. They looked almost like faces. The music had a tribal feel to it. Robotnik was fought on a few floating platforms above a spiked pit. He used an axe attachment to his vehicle to eliminate platforms and attack you. In Mystic Cave Zone, I noticed the first difference from the final version, besides the added levels. I collected the 7th Chaos Emerald in it, and didn't get any message about Supersonic. Just a "Sonic got them all" message. I couldn't turn into Supersonic either. After completing Oil Ocean, I went to Hidden Palace Zone. It was pretty much like the version in the well-known beta. Nothing unusual until I got to the end of the second act. Tails was tied to the Master Emerald. Knuckles was hovering above him. Kinda strange since he didn't appear until Sonic 3. And doing a laughing animation, he turned into Supersonic and ran past the Master Emerald, grabbing Tails right before Knuckles fired a gigantic beam at the Emerald. Shattering it, I got a message saying Sonic saved Tails, and the screen faded. Genocide/Cyber City Zone started. I could change it to Supersonic with 50 rings now, and Tails was following me. The rest of the game was just like the normal version. Rock Zone never showed up. Confused about Rock Zone's absence, I looked around online trying to find information about the version I had just played. I couldn't find anything, so I decided to try replaying the game without recollecting the Chaos Emeralds. Everything in the game was identical until I reached the end of Hidden Palace. Tails was still tied to the emerald. Knuckles was still above him. Sonic ran into the Emerald to try and save Tails, but Knuckles fired an energy beam diagonally, knocking Sonic back. Knuckles fired his huge beam at the Master Emerald, hitting Tails this time. I heard a loud, high-pitched shriek, which I guessed was supposed to be a voice sample from Tails. When the beam went away, Tails and the Master Emerald were both gone without a trace. Knuckles had did a laughing animation and flew away. Sonic did a animation I had never seen before, where he fell to the ground and just lay there. The words "you couldn't save him" get appeared on the screen, and the level faded out. The next zone, as I was expecting, was Rock Zone. When it loaded, it was a blank screen. This wasn't like the well-known Sonic 2 The Lost Worlds hack. Sonic fell to the bottom and died. And I had 13 lives when I reached it. And this falling sequence repeated itself 12 times when I was down to 1 life. Though the level finally loaded, the best way I can describe the graphics is a combination of Hilltop and Marble Zone from Sonic 1, with many objects in the background worked on. The music seemed like a remix of Green Hill, but played with nothing but deep bass tones. There didn't seem to be any Super Emeralds in the zone, so being down to my last life, I proceeded with caution. There didn't seem to be any enemies in the zone either. In their place were the sprites for the animals you free from badniks, lying on the ground, not moving. More and more animals appeared as I went deeper into the level. Soon the floors were covered with them. The only challenges in the level were some simple platforming sequences. Had to jump over gaps in the floor that led to a burning fire at the bottom of the screen. After going through what felt like a normal Sonic 2 level in length, I reached the goal sign. There was a small gap in the floor before the sign, and after touching the sign instead of running to the right like he usually does, Sonic turned around and just looked in the direction of the gap for about 30 seconds. Then he ran into it, falling to his death. I got to the game over screen. I had forgotten that I had earned a couple of continues earlier in the game. I selected the yes continue option, but I heard a ear-splitting buzzing noise, like games do when you choose a menu option you aren't allowed to. I tried a couple more times, but the game clearly wasn't going to let me continue. I finally chose no and got a game over screen similar to the bad ending in Sonic 3 Beta, except instead of juggling Eggman juggling emeralds, what I mean, fuck, this fucking pasta, it's like, it's even more, has more grammar errors than the original pasta it's plagiarizing off of. But anyways, Knuckles was juggling the Super Emeralds. I had to reset the game to get away from that screen. I was disturbed by what I just seen. This certainly explained why Rock Zone had been removed from the game, but I couldn't imagine what made Sega even consider doing something like this. Even though I had already played through the game and gotten the good ending, I felt like I had to do it again. That I couldn't leave the game the way my second playthrough had ended. So for the third time in one day, I started the Sonic 2 beta. The first oddity was the title screen. Tails was gone from it. Sonic didn't seem to notice. There was just a bit of empty space. Circle both of them the circle both of them are coming out of. I started the game and it seemed normal until I collected 50 rings and entered the first bonus stage. Instead of rings coming at me, wave after wave of bombs appeared. I dodged them for as long as I could, but finally got hit. Instead of doing his ring losing animation, the 3D Sonic model did a death animation, and the bonus stage ended. The results screen listed 0 for every stat, but the message at the top was different. In solid black text, you can't bring back the dead. Getting really scared at this point, I collected another 50 rings as quickly as I could, but the bonus stage I entered was identical, ending with the same message. I deleted the beta from my computer and downloaded it again so I could get the good ending again. I nearly screamed when I saw the title screen without Tails on it, and as I feared, I got the impossible bonus stage again, but this time the message was different when I lost. You can't reverse your mistakes. I was terrified and was clearing to the irrational belief that if I could just get the good ending again, everything would be better. I went on a different computer, downloaded the beta, and got the same title screen. Acting on baseless instinct by this point, I went into the bonus stage again. The message this time, you have to accept your mistakes. I deleted the beta from this computer as well. I realized the computers were sharing a internet source, that there was a possibility this was some kind of trick or virus. I went to my trusty Genesis, took out the Sonic 2 cartridge I had for 17 years. If I could just see Tails in it, I knew everything would be okay. But I still haven't gotten up the courage to risk it. Every rational part of me knows the beta couldn't possibly affect my cartridge, but I'm too afraid. Afraid of what will happen if I see the title screen without Tails in it. I dream about it every night, but I just know that it could get so much worse. It had been about 2 weeks since I had played the Sonic 2 beta. I had kept dreaming about it every night. The dreams were getting worse and worse. I was waking up from them covered in sweat. I couldn't get back to sleep. I was too tired to function during the day. I knew I had to try my Sonic 2 cartridge. It was the only way I could move past this. I was too afraid to try it by myself. However, I invited a friend over, and not wanting him to think I was crazy, I casually suggested playing Sonic 2. I turned on my Genesis and heard the familiar Sega voice. And then the title screen came up. Tails wasn't in it. I screamed at the top of my lungs. My friend was understandably startled and asked what the heck was wrong with me. Barely holding back tears, I blurted out the whole story in a barely coherent babble. When I was finished, my friend was just stared at me for a few seconds, then spoke. What are you talking about? Tails was on the title screen, just like he always is. I wasn't able to respond. Somehow this made things seem even worse. Now I wasn't even sure if it really was some kind of curse or if I had just gone crazy. I sat in complete silence for a few minutes. My friend made up an excuse about having to be somewhere and left. I can't blame him. After the initial shock wore off, I tried actually playing the game. Tails wasn't there, and the bonus round was impossible. I got this message after losing. You can't run from your failures. I had absolutely no idea what to do at this point. I considered checking myself into a mental institution, but that last message about running from my problems made me afraid to ignore the game. Thinking about the messages, I decided I only had one option. Even if nothing good was likely to come of it, I had to play through the game again. I decided to do the next playthrough on my Genesis, holding a controller, being in front of a TV, using a system from my childhood made me feel safer than playing the beta. Aside from the lack of tails and bonus stages, the first two zones were completely normal. I wasn't surprised at this point when Dust Hill came up after Chemical Plant, but after going a few screens into it, I saw something new in the background. Tails hanging from the Master Emerald on one of those style stands you see in Hangman games. This image would repeat itself in the background every few seconds, every few screens worth of scrolling. When I got to where I had fought the boss before, there was another image of Tails being hanged in the background. Robotnik wasn't Robotnik wasn't there in his special boss vehicle or just the generic Sonic 2 floating vehicle he makes his escapes on, aka the Egg Mobile. Instead, there was no Knuckles. He did a laughing animation and flew away. There was no victory screen. It just faded out and went to aquatic ruins. The zones that are in the final game are normal, but when I got to Wood Zone, there was another change. I noticed the textures in the wood that looked like faces on my first two playthroughs, but now they were much clearer. Tails' face in a twisted scream. These were carved everywhere in the level. When I got to the boss, the biggest carving yet was in the background. Again, Knuckles just did a laughing animation and left, causing the screen to fade out. Mystic Cave and Oil Ocean were normal. Then I reached Hidden Palace. Hidden Palace changed a lot more than Dust Hill and Wood Zone. There was no music at all and no enemies either. I walked through 2 empty levels until I reached the part where Knuckles had killed Tails. Nothing was there. Not the Master Emerald, Tails, or Knuckles. Sonic went into his despair pose from when Tails had been killed, and stayed like that for about 30 seconds until the screen faded out. Rock Zone started, and it too was very difficult, very different. This time it was filled with enemies, hedgehog-shaped robots covered in fire. There was no way to kill them, and the level was still lacking rings. There were also lava spouts shooting up from the bottom of the screen, and fireballs falling from the sky. This was one of the hardest platforming levels I had ever played. But after several deaths, I made it to the goal sign, which still had the floor gap next to it. I touched the sign, and this time I did the trick that lets you control Sonic during the end of level score tally. It worked, and Sonic didn't run into the pit. The victory message was in the familiar black text. It won't bring him back. The screen faded, and Rock Zone Act 2 appeared. The graphics were different here. A fire had burned out, replaced by ashes and soot covered ruins in the background. Again, there were no enemies. The Super Emeralds were back, but this time they were all laying in a pile of ash. Also, like my first visit in the zone, the only obstacles were some small gaps in the floor. This time they looked like holes that had been burnt through. I reached the end of the zone. Knuckles was in the Master Emerald, at the right end of the screen, about same level with Sonic, about the same level with Sonic. He didn't move, so I attacked him. He made the usual flashing damage animation, so I kept doing it. After 8 hits, he still hadn't reacted or been defeated, but the black text appeared again. What do you hope to accomplish? Not sure what else to do, I kept attacking Knuckles after a few more hits. Killing him won't bring your friend back. I continued to attack Knuckles, the message changed every few hits. You let him die, that will never change. Revenge won't soothe you forever. Like the past, he is lost forever. You can't get your innocence back. Your enemy's blood can't wash away your mistakes. You have no one to blame but yourself. Take responsibility for your actions. You are attacking the wrong person. After getting all these messages, I got an idea of what the game wanted me to do. Instead of jumping on Knuckles to attack him, I walked into him, causing Sonic to take damage and die. One final message came up. You have paid the only acceptable price. The game reset and the title screen came up. This time Sonic wasn't there either. There was an empty circle. I started the game and the screen the common beta sends you to when you select Rock Zone appeared. There was no timer, no Sonic in a hilltop / marble fuse, nothing. I turned the system on and off, tried again, the same thing happened. I tried the beta on my computer, same thing, same screen. I tried another Sonic game and it was the same. Everything in the series had erased him. I haven't tried to play a Sonic game in quite a while now, but I see that one screen every time I close my eyes. This pasta gave me a literal massive face palm to my fucking face. So hard. This pasta was exactly what I expected. A barely changed, plagiarized version of the Genocide City creepypasta. Honestly, my friend Squid Manescape was right that this pasta was just a plagiarized ripoff of Genocide City. Plus, this creepypasta makes even more less sense than Genocide City by K.I. Simpson, because at least K.I. Simpson's Genocide City had a thing going for it. This, however, is just a more nonsensical plagiarized ripoff of K.I. Simpson's work. And now, having read this, it disappoints me even more to see this creepypasta be named Every Copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is Personalized. When I first saw this pasta before my friend Squid Manescape, who is a mod on the Spin Pasta wiki, deleted this awful plagiarized pasta off of the Spin Pasta wiki. I at first thought that this pasta with a name like this, and how it said it was a spin-off remake of the original Genocide City creepypasta, I, in the past, when I first saw it, had some high hopes, thinking that this pasta was probably at least going to be its own thing of a spin-off remake of the original creepypasta Genocide City by K.I. Simpson. But no, not at all. It was actually a plagiarized ripoff, like I expected, after finding out that the pasta was deleted off of the Spin Pasta wiki by my friend Squid Manescape. Like, seriously, when I first discovered this pasta, before it was deleted, at first, I legitimately expected this creepypasta to at least be a cool spin-off remake of the original creepypasta, having a focus on the new and unique creepypasta concept first started on 4chan about every copy of Super Mario 64 is being personalized, and how the concept is even used for people to make their own creepy personalized video game copies of their favorite games instead of just Super Mario 64 like the original classic Sonic games and other stuff. But again, no! A huge no! It was actually just naming its pasta that and only briefly mentioning the concept of it here and there in the pasta as a way of at least trying to gain some attention to try or make its pasta popular off of the work it plagiarized and stole from. God, I hate this plagiarized pasta. I am giving this a literal 0 out of 10 because it literally plagiarizes off of the work off of another person and stuff. And I will say, like, as I said before, it's even more nonsensical than Genocide City. Like, why is, like, the like, part with, like, tails hanging from, like, a noose and stuff on, like, that hangman thing or whatever? Instead, it's the Western-style hangman thing, but with the fucking Master Emerald on it, and Tails is hanging from the Master Emerald. We're like, what? 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 What does that Master Emerald have anything to do with this? What? Well, anyways, that's all. That's it for this episode. If you have any suggestions you want me to read and review, tell me in the comments below. If you want to share a creepypasta you've made, share on my forums, the Danger 11 forums. This is Wonder Hellblazer, and I'll see you all next time in the next episodes.